The African plains wake not with song but with silence, an eerie stillness that hums with unspoken danger. As the horizon blushes with the first hints of orange, a breeze glides over the dew-drenched grasses, rustling blades with the softness of breath. The air carries the warm scent of earth, mingled with the faint musk of antelope and the ghost of last night's blood. Here, every sunrise is a reset button for survival, and every heartbeat is borrowed time. In this wide-open arena, life begins on a countdown. A newborn impala stumbles into existence, legs too long, eyes too wide, the trembling mess of fur still slick from the womb. There is no grace in birth here, no time for lullabies or quiet bonding. The moment this creature tastes oxygen, it becomes a target. A signal flares across the ecosystem like a silent alarm. Fresh meat has entered the world. Jackals twitch their ears, vultures tilt their heads. Even the wind seems to carry word to the waiting claws. For this fawn, the first lesson is simple: stand or die. There is something grotesquely poetic about the way the wilderness tests its newborns. A hare, still pink and blind, wriggles beneath a thin cover of leaves, while a snake, drawn by scent, glides ever closer. Somewhere else, a baby gazelle takes its first steps, then its first sprint, driven not by curiosity, but by the thunder of hooves behind it. Survival is the first reflex. Childhood doesn't exist in the wild. It is replaced by a lifelong audition not to be dinner. And yet nature, in its twisted brilliance, equips even the most vulnerable with tricks. Impalas are born with legs made for flight. Within minutes they can gallop. Gazelles can vanish into grass that barely reaches their shoulders. Hares freeze with the precision of statues, their stillness almost mystical. But these defenses come with a tragic flaw. They are prey not because they are weak, but because they are delicious. High in protein, tender, abundant. They are evolution's sacrifice, sculpted by millions of years to nourish the killers. The mothers know this. Their eyes are glassy with alertness, ears scanning every whisper of movement. A single crunch in the grass can send entire herds into stampede. It's a symphony of panic, and the most terrifying instrument is silence, the sudden absence of hoofbeats, the moment when one doesn't rise again. For every calf born, the odds are stacked. In some species, only 1 in 10 will reach adulthood, a lottery of luck and legs. But even luck has limits. A newborn wildebeest, not yet dry, struggles to keep pace with its migrating herd. The mother nudges, pushes, pleads without words, and then from the shadows of an acacia grove they emerge, hyenas grinning like ghouls. The chase is short, the kill is quicker. What remains of the calf is absorbed into the dust, into the bones of the land, as if it had never existed at all. Death is not a tragedy here, it is a transaction. There are stories buried in every corner of this theatre, some so swift they vanish before they're ever told. A cheetah, elegant as flame, stalking a group of baby Thompson's gazelles. They're barely a day old, already sprinting like seasoned athletes. One veers left, too sharp, a fatal slip. The cheetah pounces. The others live another day, not because they were braver, but because they were luckier. Sometimes, that's all survival is. But prey are not passive characters. Their existence is not defined by their deaths. On the contrary, they are the architects of the predator's hunger. Lions don't shape the savannah, zebras do. Every migration route, every watering hole, every dusty trail is paved by prey. They are the ones who risk the crossing, who remember the paths, who teach the rhythm of life. The predators only follow. Still, there is an undeniable cruelty to it all. The world seems to conspire against them. When a herd flees, it's the smallest legs that lag. When a mother must choose between escape or defense, sometimes the calf is left behind. Not out of malice, but out of necessity. This is nature's arithmetic. One lost, many saved. And even then, the ones who grow strong are merely fattened for future meals. The circle is tight, unforgiving. Even the sky offers no peace. A newborn hare, camouflaged in golden grass, senses a shadow above. A martial eagle dives. The moment is lightning fast. A puff of fur, a scream swallowed by wind, and then nothing. Life plucked from earth like a page torn from a book. Yet for all the horror, there is a strange, defiant beauty in the way prey animals live. They love fiercely, run gloriously, fight with desperation. A gazelle's leap is not just an escape, it is a statement. I am here, I am alive, and you will have to earn me. In this realm, where the hunted shape the hunter, every breath taken is a triumph. But even triumphs are fleeting. In the coming moments, a lioness will slink through golden grasses, her eyes locked on a young impala. Somewhere else, a leopard will drop silently from a tree. The fawn that escaped this morning may not make it to dusk, because here in this brutal Eden, the truth remains unchanged. Some are born to hunt, and others are born to die. But next, we follow the herd to the vast savannah where prey animals don't just run. They rotate, hide behind each other, sacrifice the slow, and make death a group project. In Chapter 2, we walk into grassland graveyards, where survival depends on your neighbor being just a little bit tastier than you. The sun begins its lazy ascent over the African savannah, stretching golden fingers across a landscape stitched with tall grasses that sway like dancers frozen mid-bough. The air is thick with the scent of dry earth and dust kissed by the coolness of the early morning breeze, but that peace is deceitful. There is no true silence here. Beneath the song of larks and the fluttering whispers of wind through acacia leaves lies something older, something darker, a tension that lives in the ground itself. Every grass blade conceals a story. Most of them end in blood. Out on the open plains, the wildebeest move like waves across a sea of beige and green. From a distance, their endless migration seems almost serene. Horned silhouettes gliding in unison, legs pounding rhythm into the dirt, heads bowed in a trance of instinct. But peer closer and serenity shatters. Eyes dart in every direction, muscles twitch, and the calves, those lanky little shadows trailing behind their mothers, flick their tails with nervous bursts. They are not just moving. They are running from a promise, one that has followed them since the moment they were born, that something, somewhere, is always hunting. For the prey of the savannah, death wears many masks. It laughs in the night with the chilling chuckle of hyenas, who stalk from the shadows like criminals rehearsing the perfect ambush. It crouches low in the grass with the patience of a cheetah, whose body seems stitched together by wind and steel. It yawns behind the amber eyes of a lioness who waits not with rage but with calculation, cloaked in the stillness of absolute control. There is no safe direction. There is only forward, and even that is an illusion. Wildebeest, zebras, antelope, these animals are not dumb. They are not simple, panicked puppets running on legs and fear. Their migrations are masterpieces of coordination, a ballet of alertness and rotation. The strong take the front, the injured slip to the back, and the newborns, the weak, the exhausted. Well, let's just say the middle of the herd is both sanctuary and selection process. In a grim twist of natural efficiency, the herd's very structure ensures that someone is always falling behind. The stragglers are not abandoned by malice, but by the merciless mathematics of survival. When a lion charges, no one turns back. Zebras add a dash of confusion to the chaos with their dazzling stripes, a natural optical illusion. In a mass sprint, their stripes blend into a disorienting blur, making it difficult for predators to lock onto a single target. But as clever as this camouflage is, it has one flaw. Once a zebra stumbles, once the blur breaks, the stripes mean nothing. The lion's eyes narrow, focus returns, and nature's blur becomes a bullseye. There's a peculiar kind of humor to it all. The way prey animals invent these elaborate, often theatrical defenses that only delay the inevitable. Wildebeest calves, for instance, will sometimes play dead when separated from their mothers, flopping stiffly to the ground in a desperate ploy to bore the predator into looking elsewhere. It occasionally works. Hyenas, however, are not known for their patience or their taste in drama. A free meal is still a meal, even if it doesn't scream. Yet not all prey lose their battles. Sometimes, in a twist fit for mythology, the tables flip. A lioness charges into a zebra herd only to be blindsided by a well-placed kick that cracks a rib and sends her limping away. An unlucky cheetah, built for speed but not durability, lands its sprint only to be met with a pair of wildebeest horns aimed with the precision of panic. These moments don't change the rules of the savannah, but they prove the prey can punch back when it counts. Even the terrain itself seems to favor the predators. The grasses that blanket this ecosystem don't grow too high, just enough to hide an ambush. They trap scent, mask movement, and whisper misleading clues. Every gust of wind becomes a messenger of lies, and every shadow cast by a moving cloud can trick a zebra into bolting at nothing, or worse, not bolting at all. In a place where everything resembles everything else, survival depends on how fast your nerves fire. And yet what truly makes the savannah so treacherous for prey is not the predators, it's the unpredictability. The herd could be safe for hours, grazing, drinking, even resting, but then out of nowhere comes the stampede. A lion appears, maybe not even attacking, just watching. But that's enough. Panic spreads like wildfire. Dust clouds rise, calves are separated, a zebra trips, a mother hesitates. In that chaos, the predators don't even have to work hard. Sometimes they just wait and watch the mistakes pile up. There's an almost theatrical irony to how prey behave. They've evolved to be constantly alert, and yet their very panic is what makes them predictable. Predators study them like gamblers study dice. They know the herd will bolt left if the wind comes from the west. They know the tired calf will break formation at the first shout. They know the scent of fear, the trembling tail, the lowered head, and in that knowledge, they find their edge. But perhaps the cruelest twist of all is how prey animals never truly rest. Even in sleep, zebras take turns standing guard, their eyes half closed, ears twitching at every nocturnal whisper. Wildebeest sleep in clusters, not for warmth but for sacrifice. If something grabs one, the others might have time to flee. Safety in numbers is not a guarantee. It's a gamble, a strategy soaked in silent prayers. As the day begins to scorch and the herds push toward a distant watering hole, the cycle spins again. Predators follow, unseen but ever present. The grass sways. The vultures circle, not waiting for a hunt to end, but ready to feast on its leftovers. Somewhere, a newborn calf is already limping. A lioness narrows her eyes. The ground remembers the rhythm of pursuit. And just ahead, past the shallow river bend, an even deadlier maze awaits, where there's no place to run and no direction is safe. In the next chapter, we leave the plains and dive into deeper waters, where prey can't even scream, because ocean buffet is where hiding ends and nowhere is truly safe. Beneath the silver skin of the sea, the world folds into silence. Light fractures as it filters through the surface, casting flickering mosaics onto the backs of creatures below, like dancing firelight on a cathedral ceiling. There are no trees to run behind here, no holes to duck into, no comforting solid ground beneath your feet. The ocean is a liquid arena, open, infinite, and unforgiving. For prey, it is a place where danger comes from all directions, above, below, and behind. Even the water itself whispers the predator's approach, though often too late to matter. A school of sardines shimmers like a living ribbon, twisting and folding in synchronized panic, as if choreographed by some unseen puppeteer. Each tiny fish moves with blind trust, responding not to sight or thought, but to the desperate instinct of the group. This, in theory, is safety. The crowd, the swarm, the collective blur of bodies meant to confuse and protect. But the ocean is not confused. The ocean is hungry. From below, a spear-shaped shadow cuts upward, an Atlantic bluefin tuna, faster than a cheetah in its own medium. In a blink, the water erupts with silver scales and scarlet streaks, and the illusion of safety evaporates. The idea of hiding in the ocean is a romantic lie, sold by the drama of coral reefs and the fairy tale shapes of seaweed forests. Yes, there are crevices and caves, but they only delay the inevitable. A clever octopus may squeeze itself into a rocky hole, but moray eels slither better than burglars, and groupers wait like landlords collecting dues. Camouflage buys seconds, not freedom. Even sea turtles, armored and ancient, become snacks for tiger sharks with a taste for crunch. Their flippers, though graceful in open water, become clumsy in tight corners, and once caught in a death spiral, twisting into the jaws of the attacker, no amount of age-old wisdom can save them. Seals, those sleek, wide-eyed torpedoes of blubber and muscle, should have it good. They're agile, clever, and charismatic, with puppy dog faces that have inspired cartoons and cuddly toys. But charm doesn't count for much in the sea, especially not when orcas are around. Killer whales, despite their adorable name, don't just hunt seals, they toy with them. A pod may launch coordinated attacks, splitting ice floes and creating waves to tip their prey into the water. Then comes the grim ballet, flinging the seal with their tails, tossing it into the air like children at play. It's not just about the kill, it's about the spectacle. Orcas are not merely efficient, they are theatrical. And the seal, with its terrified eyes and flailing flippers, becomes a tragic centerpiece in nature's most merciless circus. But even orcas aren't the only sadists in the sea. Dolphins, so often painted as the sweethearts of the marine world, have a mischievous streak bordering on dark comedy. In some coastal regions, they've been observed catching fish, then tossing them repeatedly into the air before consumption. Is it practice, a game, or simply dinner with flair? No one knows for sure. What's certain is that in the ocean, even play can end in a scream. If fish could scream, that is. What makes the underwater world uniquely terrifying for prey is its three-dimensional battlefield. On land, you check left, right, maybe above if you're unlucky. But in the ocean, death comes from any angle. A penguin dives down to fish, only to be snatched from below by a leopard seal. A herring darts sideways, avoiding a barracuda, only to blunder into a net of jellyfish. The rules here are not just unfamiliar, they're fluid. The hunted must think in spirals, in pulses, in waves. And even then, thinking fast doesn't mean living long. In the deep sea, where light dies and shadows become shapes, the horrors only multiply. Here, prey animals illuminate themselves with bioluminescent lures, tiny sparks of living light used to attract mates or find food. But this glow also paints a target on their backs. Predators use it like a homing beacon, and in this darkness, ambush is art. Giant squid with tentacles longer than a bus lurk in the murk. Their prey doesn't see a hunter, it just suddenly finds itself wrapped, pulled, pierced, and gone. And for all their bizarre shapes and alien appearances, deep-sea prey species have evolved tricks worthy of science fiction. Some fish spew clouds of glowing mucus to escape. Others inflate into balloons of spikes, daring predators to take a bite and regret it forever. There are shrimp that punch with enough force to break glass, and tiny creatures that release bursts of heat or sound to confuse sonar-guided predators. Yet every one of these tricks is a temporary fix, a gamble. And in the grand casino of the sea, the house always wins eventually. Even the seabed, that illusion of stillness, hides predators beneath it. Stingrays flutter just above the sand, their bodies outlined like living shadows. But the real masters of the seafloor are ambush predators, stonefish that look like rocks, waiting with poisoned spines, flounders that vanish into the grit until a curious shrimp gets too close. Prey here must live in a constant state of sensory overload, decoding motion, scent, vibration, because nothing is ever as it seems. Yet for all its cruelty, the ocean's buffet system is paradoxically essential. The constant feast fuels ecosystems that stretch from coral reefs to polar ice. The prey, though forever fleeing, are the backbone of every chain. Anchovies feed seabirds, sardines nourish seals, krill sustain entire whales. Without the hunted, the hunters collapse, and with them, the ocean's fragile rhythm. It is the chase, not the kill, that maintains the balance. As we drift out of the water and back toward shore, we find ourselves in a new arena, one still soaked in peril, but shaded by trees and cloaked in green. The jungle, a place where prey may no longer float, but they dangle, creep, leap and freeze, hunted by things they can't even hear. In our next chapter, we enter the most haunted territory of all, where jungle paranoia reigns, and even the trees have eyes. The forest stirs with the hush of morning. Light seeps through 100 green layers of canopy, dappling the underbrush with shifting patterns, like stained glass on cathedral floors. The air is thick with the perfume of moss and bark, tinged with the sweet tang of distant fruit and the musk of damp soil. But this is not a sanctuary. It is a stage of illusion. For in the treetops above, where chirping seems cheerful and feathers shimmer in early sunbeams, the truth is anything but gentle. Here in nature's vertical kingdom, the most delicate creatures are also the most disposable. This is not the tale of soaring raptors or proud peacocks. This is the quieter, more brutal story of birds that never got the chance to fly. In a cradle of twigs, nestled in a crook between two branches, a clutch of hatchlings twitches blindly. Their bodies are soft and featherless, translucent skin glowing with the pink pulse of life. Their beaks gape instinctively at every rustle, every breeze, confusing movement with motherhood. They cannot see. They cannot move. They cannot defend themselves. They are nature's most vulnerable offering, laid bare beneath a world of predators with patience and appetite. Just below, creeping with practiced stealth, A serpent ascends. Its body glides along the trunk like a whisper. The texture of the bark is meaningless to its scales. It climbs not by grip, but by memory, following the scent of warmth, milk, and yolk. This snake is not in a hurry. Its hunger is ancient and measured, timed to the weakness of others. And when it arrives, there is no struggle, no flapping, no fight. Only the silent gulping of new life swallowed whole before it ever opened its eyes. For every majestic falcon that rides the thermals in cinematic glory, there are hundreds of birds that exist only to be devoured. Songbirds, warblers, finches, doves. Most of them are not apex anything. They are snacks with wings. Their defense lies in speed, but speed cannot save a nest. They rely on camouflage, but camouflage is useless against the scent-guided noses of raccoons, monkeys, and yes, even squirrels, who, contrary to their bushy-tailed reputation, are surprisingly efficient nest raiders. They leap through branches not just in search of nuts, but of protein-rich delicacies that squeak. The forest is not a two-dimensional arena, it is a layered trap. Dangers rise with the canopy. Above, falcons patrol with eyes like microscopes, locking onto fleeing birds mid-flight and crushing them with talons before gravity even notices. Below, owls melt into the shadows, masters of silent death. Their wings are engineered for hushed movement, their faces sculpted to funnel sound like satellite dishes. When night falls and the forest quiets to a hum, the owl begins its work. Not in fury, but in silence. Mice, frogs, even sleeping birds become prey in a world where sound betrays survival. But perhaps the cruelest irony belongs to the very act of singing. For birds, song is more than melody. It is territory, romance, identity. Yet every note is a neon sign in the dark, advertising location to lovers and killers alike. The louder the song, the greater the risk. Some species have evolved to sing only in short bursts. Others choose lower branches where sound doesn't carry. But many don't adapt in time. To the trained ear of a predator, a birdsong is not poetry, it's GPS. Even mid-flight, the sky is no sanctuary. Imagine a swift darting across a clearing, its wings beating like a living arrow, slicing through the air with precision. And then, from above, comes death. A hobby falcon, smaller than a crow but 10 times faster, folds its wings and drops like a missile. The impact is surgical. The prey bird never sees it coming. One moment it flies, the next, it falls in limp silence. Some birds, desperate to tilt the odds, take on bizarre strategies. The killdeer, for example, fakes a broken wing, dragging itself pathetically across the ground to lure predators away from its nest. It's a performance worthy of awards, flailing and squeaking until the threat follows, and only then leaping into full flight. Quail mothers lead their chicks in zigzagging lines, hoping that confusion will buy them enough time to disappear. And yet, despite these clever theatrics, survival remains a lottery ticket written in feathers and fear. In the tropics, deception goes even further. The jacana, often dubbed the Jesus bird for its ability to walk on lily pads, lays its eggs in precarious floating nests. This makes raiding more difficult for ground predators, but not impossible. Crocodiles, lizards, and even herons have developed ways to disturb the pads, knocking eggs into the water or snatching chicks like hors d'oeuvres. The sky may be high, but the water is always near and never empty. And then there are the tragedies of motherhood. A dove will defend her nest with the courage of a creature 10 times her size, fluffing feathers and hissing at snakes she has no hope of beating. She knows the odds. And yet she stays. Birds have been observed mourning the loss of chicks, circling the nest, returning to the broken shells, calling softly into the trees. Whether it's instinct or emotion is irrelevant. The pain is real. In a world where life is measured in feathers and milliseconds, grief too finds its place. But not all bird deaths are tragic. Some are absurd. Take the hapless cuckoo chick, raised not by its own kind, but by unsuspecting foster parents it's tricked into feeding it. These imposters often grow twice as large as their adoptive mothers and still scream for more. It's comedy with a dark punchline. While other chicks are tossed from the nest, the parasite thrives, nurtured by the same system it betrays. In the bird world, even survival can be scandalous. And yet, despite all this, despite the death, the danger, the doomed infancy, birds return to the sky every morning. They sing, they build, they lay again. The cycle continues not because it is merciful, but because it must. For the predators above to fly, the prey below must fall. And still in the quiet corners of the canopy, new eggs tremble, new wings wait. But while birds may suffer in the trees, our next victims don't even get the chance to look up. They are the slow, the armored, the awkward. The ones who can't run, can't fly, and must defend themselves with hope and a hard shell. In the next chapter, we follow the slow and doomed, and learn what happens when speed is not an option, and being hard to chew is your only plan. There are no warning cries in this corner of the wild, no frantic hoofbeats pounding the dirt, no aerial ambushes or dramatic chases across open plains. Instead, time moves like honey here, thick, unhurried, and deceptively calm. The landscape is quiet, sun-soaked, and humming with cicadas, where the leaves don't rustle from sprinting prey, but from the slow, deliberate shuffle of animals that never learned how to run. Their survival is not based on speed or strength or ferocity. It's based on endurance, absurdity, and being, quite literally, a terrible meal. In the center of a dusty clearing, a leopard lies belly flat, eyes fixed on a small armored creature trudging stubbornly toward a cluster of bushes. The tortoise has been at this pace since sunrise. One could argue it's not fleeing at all, but in its own mind, this is a full-blown getaway. Encased in a shell formed by centuries of evolutionary pessimism, the tortoise has only one plan: become a rock and hope the world loses interest. Its strategy is ancient and often effective. The shell, made of fused bone and keratin, is an architectural marvel, arched to deflect bites, shaped to shield limbs, and textured to blend in with the earth itself. And yet, as the leopard toys with its new puzzle, nudging it with a paw, flipping it gently like a coin, one truth becomes unavoidable. Being a rock doesn't work if your predator likes cracking them open. Lions have learned the trick. They don't rush. They aren't fooled. With paws the size of dinner plates and jaws that could snap a femur, they simply bat the tortoise around until a seam appears, an edge to grip, a weak spot to pry. Sometimes it takes hours, but lions have the patience of gods when meat is involved. And so beneath the golden sun, this turtle tragedy unfolds like a slow-motion opera. A crunch here, a crack there, and eventually the armor fails. What's left is not a chase. It's a dissection. Elsewhere in the dense brush at the edge of the savannah, something much spikier waddles into frame. The porcupine is not elegant. It waddles like an old man with a shopping bag full of knives. Its defense is audaciously simple. Cover yourself in barbed spears and dare the world to try something stupid. Hyenas, of course, specialize in stupid. One approaches, laughing not out of joy, but because its bizarre vocal cords can't help it. The porcupine lifts its quills in a show of warning, but the hyena doesn't flinch. This isn't its first bristly rodeo. Porcupines are often misunderstood as projectile machines, but their quills don't fly. They must be delivered. That means turning their backs to the attacker, backing up slowly, and hoping the other guy is dumb enough to get jabbed. It works surprisingly well on first attempts. Many a lion cub has learned this lesson with a yelp and a backside full of regrets. But hyenas have something other predators don't: bone-cracking jaws and an appetite for problem-solving. They bite from angles, they grab limbs, they flip their target over until the soft belly is exposed. The porcupine may be tough, but it's not invincible. And once the hyena starts chewing through quills like toothpicks, even nature's pincushion begins to unravel. Then there's the pangolin, arguably the most surreal of Earth's slow-motion survivors. It moves with an awkward grace, like a wind-up toy designed by a child with a fascination for pine cones. Covered in keratin scales, the pangolin has no claws worth speaking of, no speed to flee, no fangs to threaten. Instead, when danger looms, it simply curls up into a ball and pretends the world doesn't exist. And for many predators, that's enough. The scales are razor-sharp and interlocked so tightly that even lions have been known to give up. But here's the paradox. The pangolin is nearly immune to natural predators, and yet is the most trafficked mammal on Earth. Humans have figured out what lions couldn't. While big cats lose patience and walk away, poachers come with sacks and crowbars. Pangolins are snatched not because they're tasty, but because their scales are sold in the black markets of traditional medicine, promised as cures for everything from cancer to curses. Their armor, once their salvation, now signals their doom. The slowest, most defenseless creature in the jungle isn't dying by tooth and claw, but by myths and money. These animals, tortoises, porcupines, pangolins, they are nature's oddities, not built to fight, not built to flee. Instead, they gamble their lives on the hope that predators will get bored, that hunger will be outweighed by frustration. It's a strange kind of bravery, hiding in plain sight and daring death to come closer. And sometimes it works. There are moments when a lion gives up, a hyena slinks off, a leopard slinks away with nothing but scraped gums. In these moments, the slow survive not by dominance but by inconvenience. They are, in a sense, too annoying to kill. But when the predators learn, when they adapt, grow clever, grow hungry, then the defenses crumble. Armor breaks, spikes bend, scales shatter, and the death is not fast. There is no instant snap of a neck, no merciful end. It's a drawn-out undoing, a peeling away of nature's last line of hope. Yet even here, in the heart of slowness and suffering, there's a lesson written in bone and shell. These creatures are not mistakes. They are adaptations. Their survival speaks of persistence, of resilience beyond muscle and claw. They have weathered ice ages, dodged extinction, and carved out their own weird corners in a world built for speed. Their downfall, when it comes, is not from weakness, but from the slow, creeping evolution of their enemies. And so the quiet ones fall. Not with a scream, but with a crunch. The grass covers the shell, the wind hides the scent, and the predator moves on. But in the shadows of the grasslands and the bellies of jungles, a darker strategy unfolds, one where predators abandon the strong and target the helpless. In the next chapter, we peer into the most harrowing corner of the natural order, where innocence is no shield. We enter the realm of baby killers, where being young means being hunted first. The African sun climbs with the deliberate menace of something that knows it's in charge. As light spills across the floodplain, shadows shrink and the air thickens with the scent of heat, dried dung, sweet rot, and the acrid musk of territorial tension. A newborn wildebeest blinks against the brightness, legs trembling, ears twitching like faulty antennae trying to make sense of the world. Nearby, its mother nudges it upright, her body taut with vigilance, nostrils wide to taste the wind for anything wrong. In this land of horns and fangs, the rules are simple: run or be run through. But for the young, too new, too soft, there is no game to play, only a countdown. Nature is not a kind parent. It plays no favorites, offers no allowances for innocence. In fact, it often seems to punish it. Predators across every biome have quietly agreed on one thing: the young are the easiest to kill. Why risk a slash from a mother zebra's hooves or the crushing charge of a full-grown buffalo when you can snatch a baby that still smells like afterbirth? It's a strategic efficiency that borders on cruelty, but to predators, it's just mathematics: less risk, less energy, more reward. Along a muddy riverbank, a pod of hippos lazes in deceptive calm. Their enormous bodies barely ripple the surface as they lounge in a mass of bloated tranquility, skin glistening like wet boulders. But beneath the water's edge, crocodiles glide like ghosts. One of them positions itself downstream from the pod's latest arrival. A baby hippo, curious, bobbing awkwardly just beyond the arc of its mother's massive side. And then, without a sound, the water folds in on itself. A flash of scales, a muffled splash, and the baby is gone. The mother thrashes seconds too late, her roars echoing over water that now holds only silence and blood. Even apex herbivores like hippos, territorial and violent, cannot always guard what they've made. Sometimes the air itself turns treacherous. In the treetops of Madagascar, a baby lemur clings to its mother's back as she leaps from branch to branch, her body curved like a bow in mid-flight. Below, the jungle murmurs with life, but above, the wind stirs unnaturally. A crowned eagle, silent and elegant, drops like a guillotine from the canopy. Its talons, each the size of a man's fingers, sink into the baby's body before the mother even hears the wind part. In less than 3 seconds, the eagle is airborne again, its prey dangling limp as the cries of the mother vanish into the forest ceiling. High above the jungle floor, death feels strangely surgical. The horror does not always come from outside. Sometimes the baby killer wears the same stripes. In times of famine, Lionesses have been seen killing the cubs of rival females, especially those from different prides. Male lions, newly crowned kings after ousting the previous dominant male, will methodically seek out and eliminate every cub that isn't theirs. It is a brutal tactic, but evolutionarily sound. With no offspring to protect, females return to heat faster, ready to bear the new male's genes. For a predator species with a high infant mortality rate and short reigns, it's a dark strategy of legacy. In the lion's mind, it's not murder, it's housekeeping. And lions are far from alone in this. Langurs, those lithe, long-limbed monkeys of Asia, are often ruled by dominant males who replace rivals with shocking speed. And once in charge, the new alpha begins a purge. Infants are ripped from mothers, flung from branches, bitten and discarded. The females scream and fight, but ultimately the bodies fall and the troop moves on. There is no mourning period, only ovulation. Even herbivores are not exempt from this madness. In the highland meadows of the Andes, a herd of vicuñas moves delicately across the grasslands. Slender, golden-coated relatives of llamas, they seem almost too dainty for a world this cold. But dominance here is carved through aggression. A territorial male, noticing a newborn from a rival group straying too close, lunges, not to chase, but to kill. He bites, stomps, drives the foal into the ground. Why? Because every mouth that survives threatens his future offspring's food. In places where resources are scarce, compassion becomes a liability. The paradox, of course, is that the youngest are also the most watched. Mothers go to extraordinary lengths to shield their young. Elephants form living barricades around calves, positioning themselves in a ring of tusks and trunks. Meerkat colonies assign full-time babysitters to stand guard while others forage. Flamingos even build mud nests on stilts in toxic salt lakes to keep chicks out of reach from land predators. But still, the killers find a way. Patience is the real predator here. A jackal will wait for a mother to blink. A hyena will shadow a herd for miles, looking for that one distracted moment, that one misplaced step. What makes this chapter of the wild so uniquely tragic is its blend of fragility and inevitability. Prey animals pour energy, instinct, and cunning into protecting the next generation, but the math never adds up. For sea turtles, less than 1 in 1,000 hatchlings will survive to adulthood. For amphibians, the figure is even worse. And yet they keep laying, keep trying, flooding the world with life in the hope that some tiny percentage slips through the cracks. And it's not all heartbreak. There are small triumphs. A gazelle mother, running full tilt from a cheetah, darts suddenly sideways, baiting the hunter away from her fawn hidden in the grass. A baby monkey, plucked from its mother by a raptor, grabs a hanging vine mid-air and swings to safety. A warthog piglet, against all odds, outruns a leopard by zigzagging through thornbush tunnels only it can fit through. These aren't victories of strength, but of luck, cleverness, and chaos. Sometimes that's enough. But in the world of baby killers, mercy is rare and timing is everything. Blink and they're gone. Misstep and they never grow up. The young are not just symbols of innocence here. They are currency, leverage, bait, and burden. And predators, whether clawed, feathered, or even of the same blood, know precisely where the cracks are. Yet there is another battleground, one drenched in paranoia and layered in ambush, a place where even adults must sleep with one eye open and one foot twitching. In the next chapter, we descend into the most deceptive ecosystem of all, the tangled, sweating jungle, where every shadow is a trap, and jungle paranoia reigns supreme. The jungle breathes differently than any other place on Earth. It exhales humidity, thick and perfumed with overripe fruit, mildew, and something older, something musky and animal. The canopy above strangles sunlight into trembling green shafts, fractured and fleeting, like stained glass glimpsed through moving water. Every inch is alive, twitching, chirping, crawling, dripping. Yet despite the chorus of life, there's a strange quiet under it all. A tension that hums like a string pulled too tight. Because here, in this vertical world of vines and shadows, death doesn't walk. It slithers, it glides, it pounces. It drops from the trees. It climbs up from the ground. It waits behind the eyes of things pretending not to see you. In this labyrinth of leaves and branches, prey cannot simply run. There is no clear path, only layers, mazes, traps. Monkeys leap not just to travel but to survive. A single misjudged branch, a slip of bark, a vine mistaken for a snake, and the fall itself becomes the predator. Arboreal rodents scamper along liana highways, whiskers twitching with suspicion, not speed. Tree frogs sit frozen, skin color shifting from moss to bark, relying on camouflage and sheer optimism. Down below, a tapir stirs in the underbrush, ears flicking not at sound, but at silence, which is far more dangerous. The jungle is a three-dimensional nightmare, and in this realm, you are never being hunted from just one direction. Above, harpy eagles perch like statues chiseled from thunderclouds, their talons longer than a grizzly's claws, their eyes capable of detecting a leaf twitch from 100 feet. When they strike, they don't flap or swoop, they drop. Monkeys vanish in an explosion of feathers and panic, snatched mid-swing before the alarm cries finish echoing. On the ground, jaguars melt between shadows, padding silently with muscles that seem coiled in syrup. Unlike their savannah cousins, they don't chase, they stalk, they wait, and then they crush skulls with a single bite. Their kill method is precise, almost surgical, as if they take death personally. And then there are the snakes. Oh, the jungle is generous with its serpents, boa constrictors, vine snakes, pit vipers. Some drape themselves across branches like festive ribbons, motionless until a bird lands too close. Others, like the bushmaster, prefer the forest floor, where their earthy scales vanish beneath leaf litter and mud. Prey here is under siege from all angles. An armadillo sniffing for termites may step over a vine that turns out to be its last mistake. Even a sloth, in all its slow-motion absurdity, must pause every few minutes not just to breathe, but to listen, for the whisper of scales, the hiss of hunger. Some prey species have responded with an almost comedic level of caution. Certain tamarin monkeys have evolved sentinel systems, designated lookouts posted high in the canopy, who chirp and whistle at the first sign of trouble. Others sleep in shifts, taking turns in shallow, twitchy naps, heads jerking up at every rustle like overworked baristas on espresso highs. Some frogs even fake death, tucking their legs in and going limp, hoping a predator loses interest in what appears to be spoiled goods. It's not exactly glamorous, but in a forest where even a leaf's shadow might have fangs, playing dead is a legitimate career choice. And then there are the screams. Oh yes, in this green inferno, sound is not just a byproduct, it's a weapon. Howler monkeys roar with a guttural force that can be heard 3 miles away, their throats inflated like bagpipes. The purpose? Territory, sure, but also warning. The jungle speaks in alarm calls, sharp, panicked signals that ripple through species like electric currents. One bird screams, another flutters, a rodent freezes, a monkey clutches its infant tighter. The system works, most of the time, but predators too listen. They wait for the exact note of fear that tells them something edible is nearby and distracted. Even at night, the jungle offers no peace. In fact, the terror deepens. The chorus changes from birds and monkeys to insects, bats, and the soft padding of nocturnal hunters. Owls with eyes like pale coins ghost through the dark. Margays and ocelots prowl the mid-layers, using their long tails for balance as they walk the branches like tightropes. Their prey, anything foolish enough to sleep too soundly. Even the sleeping spots of prey animals are chosen with neurotic care. A wrong perch can mean being swallowed whole by a snake before sunrise. But it's not always the large predators that pose the greatest threat. The jungle is home to some of the most creatively lethal micro-assassins in the animal kingdom. Bullet ants deliver stings so painful they've been compared to gunshot wounds. Some caterpillars wear venomous bristles. And then there are the parasitic wasps, who lay their eggs inside live insects, allowing their young to hatch by eating their host from the inside out. Death here can be microscopic. It can come slowly. It can come smiling. Amid all this horror, life still insists on existing. Prey animals continue to birth, to forage, to sing, to groom each other in shafts of golden light that manage to sneak past the treetops. A capuchin monkey, daring and brilliant, uses a stick to fish termites out of a rotting log. A poisoned dart frog guards his tadpoles in a leaf puddle the size of a teacup. A tree shrew scampers over a branch, stuffing nectar into its cheeks like it's got an appointment to miss. They don't live because it's safe. They live because stopping means being eaten. And somehow, in all this madness, life blooms. The jungle doesn't just demand awareness, it demands paranoia. The good kind, the kind that keeps you breathing. Here, prey has evolved not just speed or camouflage, but suspicion so finely tuned it might as well be radar. One eye on the sky, one ear on the ground, one twitch away from vanishing. For in this green cathedral of chaos, every vine could be a trap, every rustle could be a death sentence, and even the fruit sometimes fights back. But there is a deeper layer still, one that camouflage cannot hide from, where hiding is no longer an option and being seen means being chosen. In the next chapter, we peel back the leaves and strip away the tricks, revealing the cruel irony of evolution's greatest illusion. We enter the world of camouflage isn't enough, where hiding doesn't always save you, and nature's best disguises are tragically easy to see through. The morning mist clings low to the ground like a secret. In the quiet of dawn, before the heat rises and the noise returns, the forest floor seems still, motionless, empty, as though life has been placed on pause. But peer closer, and the illusion breaks. What looked like bark shifts slightly, revealing the slow throb of breath. A leaf twitches with something far too nervous to be wind. A single dewdrop falls from a branch and splashes not on soil but on skin, because the jungle is never empty. It only pretends. A mossy frog lies motionless, every bump on its back mimicking the lichen that surrounds it. Its eyes are slitted, half-shuttered, waiting. This is not rest. It's a calculated performance. Camouflage, nature's great magic trick, has been honed for millions of years, an evolutionary bet that if you can't be fast, you can at least be invisible. And for some, it works brilliantly. Leaf insects that look more like leaves than actual leaves, stick bugs that vanish into the branches they live on. Baby fawns spotted like dappled sunlight, crouching so still they become part of the earth's rhythm. Stillness here is more than silence. It's a prayer whispered through muscle memory. But prayers, like tricks, don't always work. Because somewhere nearby, a predator is watching. It doesn't search for movement, it searches for mistakes. A tiger, eyes wide and unblinking, stares into the undergrowth. It has learned to decode the forest's lies. A leaf that reflects light the wrong way. A shadow that falls with the wrong angle. A single nervous breath taken a beat too soon. And in that moment, camouflage becomes a death sentence. Because when your survival depends on not existing, being noticed even once is the end of the act. For many prey animals, hiding is not just a tactic, it is a lifestyle. Certain butterflies, when at rest, fold their wings to reveal eye spots meant to mimic the gaze of larger animals. Some caterpillars inflate their heads to resemble snakes. The deadleaf mantis curls into a perfect withered husk, its legs tucked in like forgotten parchment. But these illusions are built for predators who rely on vision. When something comes hunting with a nose, or worse, with patience, these disguises dissolve like fog in sunlight. Imagine a baby deer frozen in a glade. It's tucked between ferns, its body compressed low to the ground, its heartbeat a frantic metronome counting down the seconds. It hasn't moved in hours. Its spots break up the outline of its shape. It barely smells. It is, by all measures, a ghost. But a pack of wild dogs approaches. They don't charge. They spread, they sniff, they wait. The air is still, but they are relentless. The fawn doesn't run, not because it's brave, but because its instinct says don't break the spell. One dog walks past it once, then twice, then a third time. And then, with a casual turn of its snout, it looks directly at the fawn and lunges. The illusion shatters. Camouflage, it turns out, only works when the rules are followed, and predators don't play fair. Insects, so often the masters of disguise, suffer even crueler fates. A leaf-mimicking katydid can escape the gaze of a bird or monkey, but it cannot escape a bat's radar. Some bats, using echolocation, send out bursts of sound that map their prey in outlines and shapes, not colors or textures. The katydid might look like a leaf, but in the eyes of sonar it's lunch with legs. Some spiders even evolve specifically to hunt camouflaged prey, waiting not for the appearance but for the mistake. A flick of antennae, a step too far, a breath too soon. Even the smartest disguises can be undone by behavior. A chameleon with skin that shifts like a mood ring may blend seamlessly into a tree, but its tongue, flicking out to catch a fly, can betray it in a heartbeat. A mimic octopus can impersonate a dozen other sea creatures, changing its shape, color, and posture, but when it moves the wrong way or forgets the right rhythm, It risks becoming its own costume's victim. Nature is full of actors, but predators in this performance are also critics, and the reviews are written in blood. And then there is the psychological warfare. Camouflaged prey live in a constant state of restraint. They cannot cry, they cannot flinch, they cannot answer their own instincts.
A baby bird in the nest, hearing the rustle of a snake, must stay quiet, knowing that calling out for its mother will bring death rather than help.
Some frogs stop calling altogether when predators are near, sacrificing love for life. There is even a species of fish that buries itself in sand and slows its heart rate to near stasis, waiting not minutes but hours for danger to pass. And all the while the predator waits too. Sometimes the tragedy is compounded by success. A perfectly hidden insect avoids predation for days, even weeks, only to die of starvation because it's too scared to leave its disguise. A lizard remains frozen in fear, sun baking its skin, until the very heat it was hiding from becomes its undoing. In a world where invisibility is the ultimate defense, movement is betrayal. And yet without movement, life eventually stops. Camouflage is a paradox. It hides you from death, but it can also keep you from living. Still, evolution does not give up easily. It pushes the arms race further. Some prey now blend not just with objects, but with entire behaviors. The bird-dropping spider doesn't just look like bird feces. It sits where birds usually drop their waste, giving off a scent that confirms the illusion. The Indonesian mimic octopus doesn't just look like a lionfish, it moves like one, complete with flared arms and threatening posture. But even these masks have limits, because no matter how brilliant the deception, predators evolve questions. They learn to test, to poke, to prod. The jungle, the sea, the grasslands, they are full of detectives. And so, the prey hide. They wait, they hope, not for mercy, but for oversight, for laziness, for luck. Because in nature, camouflage isn't a promise, it's a coin toss. And sometimes the predator just knows. But while some prey choose hiding, others choose defiance. Not to vanish, but to fight back, with hooves, horns, teeth, and tactics. In the next chapter, we leave the shadows and step into the fury. We meet the ones who refuse to run, the ones who bite, kick, stab, and survive through sheer rage. Prepare for the unexpected. It's time for When Prey Fights Back, the deadliest defenders. The savannah sizzles under the weight of noon. The air shimmers with rising heat, and the grasses sway not from breeze, but from the movement of life below. Somewhere in that golden sea, something breathes heavily. Not with fear, but with fury. A lioness, panting, ears pinned back, eyes wide with confusion, retreats step by agonizing step. Blood spatters the fur beneath her jaw. She's misjudged her target. The prey didn't run, it turned. Just beyond her reach, a Cape buffalo lowers its head again, thick horns glinting with the wet sheen of battle. Its muscles ripple with anger, hooves digging into the earth as it lets out a bellow deep enough to rattle the bones of the trees. Around it, the herd begins to gather, not in panic, but in formation. This is not a prey species in retreat. This is a war council in motion. We often paint the world of predators and prey in simple lines. One chases, one flees. But in the unfiltered script of the wild, those roles are blurred by rage, desperation, and sometimes sheer defiance. And when prey fight back, they do so with a terrifying efficiency, born from having nothing left to lose. Take the porcupine, an animal shaped like a walking dare. Its body is covered in quills, hollow and razor-sharp, lined with microscopic barbs that sink deeper with every muscle twitch of a predator. To a leopard, a porcupine looks like lunch wrapped in warning signs. Yet time and hunger cloud judgment. When the leopard strikes, it often aims for the head, trying to flip the porcupine and get to its unprotected belly. But the porcupine, slow as it may seem, doesn't just stand there. It spins, it charges backward. It thrashes with a calculated violence, turning its body into a living mace. There have been leopards found dead, ribs punctured, throats shredded, not from a fight, but from a dinner that fought back harder than expected. In the dry riverbeds of Namibia, a kudu, graceful, spiral-horned and always alert, locks eyes with a cheetah. It has been chased for 200 meters, its lungs are on fire, and the dust clings to its heaving flanks like ash. But as the cheetah lunges, something ancient kicks in. The kudu twists, pivots, and meets the predator's charge not with a dodge, but with a thrust. Its horns pierce through fur and into muscle. The cheetah tumbles, blood in its mouth, realizing too late that speed doesn't always beat strength. Sometimes the hunted has teeth of its own. There's a kind of poetic irony in how many of nature's most aggressive defenders are herbivores. Creatures we often associate with passivity, antelope, zebras, ostriches, are in fact loaded guns on hair triggers. Ostriches, for instance, may appear comically awkward with their gangly legs and puffed feathers, but a kick from one can disembowel a lion. Their claws aren't just decorative, they're battlefield weapons, and they know how to use them. Even smaller prey, those that seem utterly outmatched, have developed strategies that turn the tables in dramatic fashion. Meerkats, though bite-sized and largely unarmed, live in highly organized colonies where coordinated mobbing is a key survival tool. When a cobra slithers into their territory, it isn't met with scattered panic. Instead, it's surrounded by a swarm of screeching, darting bodies, each one too fast and too unpredictable to strike. The snake, overwhelmed by a dance of defiance, often retreats. It hasn't lost to size, but to chaos. Warthogs, comical with their stiff tails and perpetual snorts, are another underestimated combatant. Beneath their goofy exterior lies a warrior's heart. Armed with razor-sharp tusks and a wildly unpredictable charge, warthogs don't flee from leopards. They lunge, they spin, they aim for the gut. And if they have piglets nearby, they fight like demons in dust. But perhaps the most cinematic act of prey vengeance belongs to the African elephant. Usually unbothered by most predators due to its size, the elephant doesn't forget when lines are crossed. Lions sometimes target calves during droughts or desperation. If they succeed, they often disappear before the adults return. But sometimes they don't get away fast enough. And when a matriarch finds her calf killed, her grief transforms into calculated wrath. Elephants have been observed tracking lion scent, uprooting trees and demolishing dens in what seems dangerously close to revenge. One recorded incident showed a herd circling a lioness, tusks flashing, before driving her deep into marshland, where she drowned beneath their stomping fury. It wasn't a kill for food, it was a punishment. Even in the underwater realms, the myth of helpless prey gets flipped. Mantis shrimp, for example, are small, bright, and seemingly harmless, until provoked. Then they unleash a punch with the force of a bullet, fast enough to boil water around their claws. Aquariums have shattered because of them. Octopuses, soft and boneless, have been filmed ambushing sharks, suffocating them in tight grips and dragging them into crevices where the hunter becomes the haunted. What these moments reveal is a hidden layer of wild behavior rarely seen in the classic predator-prey equation. When prey species decide to stop running, they don't become victims, they become stories, warning signs, lessons written in scars. And for every predator that limps away from a failed ambush, there's a memory etched into muscle. Not all prey go quietly. Some leave a mark. Still, the decision to fight back isn't always born from bravery. It's often born from proximity. Cornered prey, wounded prey, mothers defending young. It's instinctual, uncalculated, but effective. The moments that make predators hesitate aren't always the bites. They're the unexpected resistance, the prey that growls, the gazelle that charges, the turtle that keeps biting even when flipped upside down. Nature, after all, favors surprises. And few things surprise a predator more than prey that doesn't know it's supposed to die. But there is one more place where the prey becomes more than fighter. It becomes judge. A place where survival isn't determined by teeth or horns, but by access to water. In the final chapter, we travel to the oasis, to the rare watering holes and rivers that pulse through dry lands like arteries of life. But in these sacred places, safety is an illusion, because where there is water, there are ambushes. Join us next as we enter the last breath, why prey still matters. The wind moves differently at dusk. It no longer gallops with midday heat or whispers like morning fog. It drifts slow and thoughtful, as if the land itself is exhaling after a long, brutal day. The grasses, golden and bruised by countless hoofprints, sway gently in the half-light, painting the horizon in ripples of fading fire. At a shallow watering hole, a small herd of impalas stands statuesque, ears pivoting, nostrils twitching, waiting for danger they've been taught to expect in every breath. Somewhere beyond the reeds, a lion watches. But this time, it does not pounce. Not because it lacks hunger, but because the impalas are too many, too alert, too wise. The balance holds, for now. To speak of prey is to speak of fear, of sacrifice, of lives that flicker and vanish without notice. But to stop there would be a disservice. Because in the theatre of the wild, the hunted do not merely exist to be consumed. They are the architects of rhythm, the engineers of motion, the pulse that gives predators their shape. Every movement a cheetah makes is sculpted by the patterns of antelope. Every ambush a crocodile attempts is dictated by where wildebeest drink. Even the silence of an owl is tuned to the heartbeat of a mouse. The predator may write the headline, but it is the prey who drafts the plot. The myth of dominance, of a wild ruled from the top down, is a comfortable illusion. In truth, ecosystems are built from the bottom up. It is the grazers, the burrowers, the swarmers and the runners who shape the soil with their hooves, who trim the grasses, disperse the seeds, churn the earth, and fertilize the future. When zebras migrate, they do not simply escape. They sculpt entire migration corridors, creating grazing zones and water routes that elephants and predators alike will follow. When rabbits breed explosively, they aren't just making themselves vulnerable. They're providing food for foxes, owls, and lynxes, and preventing those predators from overhunting other species. In every death there is design. A fallen gazelle is not a loss. It is a transfer of energy, a continuation of movement. It is easy to pity prey, to see only the trembling eyes, the panicked sprints, the half-eaten aftermaths. But their role is anything but passive. They teach the predator restraint. Too much hunting and the prey disappear, and with them, the hunter follows. Nature is not kind, but it is calculated. There are no indulgences in the wild, no waste. Predators that overkill face starvation. It is the prey who dictate the limits, who ensure that the chase has rules, even if they are written in blood. The dance between predator and prey is older than bone. It is not a war. It is not even a game. It is an unspoken agreement between survival and hunger, each pushing the other toward precision. The speed of a gazelle teaches the cheetah efficiency. The alertness of a meerkat sharpens the eagle's silence. Without the chase, the predator grows lazy, clumsy, slow. Without the predator, the prey grows reckless, bloated, unsustainable. It is not dominance, it is duet. And yet it is the prey who pay the cost. Their lives are shorter, their deaths often unnoticed, but their legacy is carved across the landscape. In the Arctic, the paths carved by reindeer herds alter the very shape of permafrost, affecting climate cycles. In African savannas, elephant calves, still considered prey despite their size, learn from predator encounters that will define how entire herds move through dry seasons. In the ocean's krill, small, simple, and endlessly consumed, sustain the blue whales, the largest animals ever to live. The mightiest things are built on the backs of the smallest sacrifices. Even in death, the prey matter. A carcass feeds not just the killer but the scavengers, the hyenas, the vultures, the beetles, the fungi. Nothing is wasted. A single zebra may nourish a dozen species for days. Its bones may be dragged, gnawed, buried, and eventually consumed by the soil itself. From it, new grass will rise. From that grass, new grazers will come. Life in the wild is not circular.
It is spiral, always feeding forward, building upon itself, driven by the ceaseless breath of those who live briefly and die often. But there is also dignity in being prey,
not because of how they die, but because of how they live. In the constant threat of death, prey animals evolve extraordinary senses, ears that hear heartbeats, eyes that see in every direction, hooves that dance across dust like whispers. They live not with ease, but with awareness. Their alertness is art. Their survival is strategy. Every day lived is 1,000 threats avoided. And that kind of life, though short, is full of victories no less profound than a predator's kill. In the end, it is not the roar of a lion or the strike of a snake that sustains the wild. It is the heartbeat of 1,000 fleeing hooves, the flutter of 1,000 wings escaping into canopy, the blink of a fawn that freezes in grass unseen. The world does not spin for the hunter. It spins because the hunted still run. And so, in this final breath, we return to the overlooked, to the ones with no claws, no fangs, no songs sung in their honor. They're the prey, the meat, the ones who vanish without name. But through them, the jungle breathes, the desert moves, the ocean feeds. They do not dominate, but they define, not by what they destroy, but by what they allow to exist. Their deaths shape the living, their fear sharpens the wild, and their silence is the sound of balance. Now the grass stills, the sun dips, and somewhere in the hush between hunt and hunger, a single heartbeat begins again. Prey lives, and so the planet endures.